Okay, so I thought that at this point with my YouTube channel, I thought it'd be interesting to do a top five of my favorite novels. Um, in no particular order, but I'll try to order them in a way in as close an order as I think are my favorites from bottom to top. I'll preface this also by saying that I'm not great at remembering plot or characters or details really of stories, but I kind of just read and capture the overall feeling or just the overall atmosphere of a book and yeah, how it made me feel more so than the details of the plot or characters. So if you're looking for that, unfortunately, I won't be able to provide that, but I will call on the internet to try to at least provide a brief synopsis of each uh, novel. So for I guess starting with number five, I will go with J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. And the synopsis of this book is that it's about kind of a rebellious, troublemaking teenager, Holden Caulfield. And I'm reading this straight from Goodreads. Fleeing the crooks at Pensy Prep, he pinballs around New York City, fleeing solace in fleeting encounters, shooting the bull with strangers in dive hotels, wandering around Central Park, getting beaten up by pimps and cut down by erstwhile girlfriends. The city is beautiful and terrible in all its neon loneliness and seedy glamour, its mingled sense of possibility and emptiness. Holden passes through it like a ghost, thinking always of his kid sister Phoebe, the only person who really understands him, and his determination to escape the phonies and find a life of true meaning. So, how I felt about this book was, yeah, that it's just a fantastic coming of age novel. Holden Caulfield being somewhat of, again, kind of a rebellious, somewhat of an outcast, I guess. Just really brings you into this kind of adventurous atmosphere of his life in New York. And I think, yeah, I didn't read it when I was young, but I think it's a book that if someone were to read when they were young, it could get someone excited about reading, and it got me pretty excited. It was one of the first books that got me really excited about reading a bit more seriously. I mean, obviously, it's an all-time classic. I really enjoy Salinger's style. It's pretty. I don't know if simple is the word, but concise, just kind of precise, just doesn't use a lot of big words, just very to the point writing and very simple. And I feel like it's a book you can read a lot of times over and over again if you wanted to. It just has a lot of laughs and funny parts of the adventure for Holden. So yeah, that would be my number five. Number four, I'll go with Camus' The Outsider, or also known as The Stranger. I've read this one a couple of times. I've read it for my channel. I it's probably the book on this list that I've actually read the most. But a brief synopsis of this one: it follows Meursault, an indifferent settler in French Algeria, who, weeks after his mother's funeral, kills an unnamed Arab man in Algiers. The story is divided into two parts, presenting Meursault's first-person narrative before and after the killing. Again, I think all of these books all will be found to have some sort of like philosophical, what would you say, existentialism to them. This book, especially, being called The Outsider, it's about a man, Merceau, who is just kind of entirely indifferent throughout his life, and to the point where he ends up killing this man on the beach, who I believe, if I remember correctly, confronts him and his friends on the beach, or has something to say about um, his friends and his girlfriend. I'm not good with plot, but you kind of follow this journey of this indifferent character after his mother's funeral, to the point where he kind of faces this indifference at his own trial, and then I don't know, the way I felt about it was he almost kind of saw the indifference flip on itself, where he kind of found some sort of beauty in the indifference or something like that, to the point where um, he's so ultimately indifferent that he finds a meaning in that, and that he realizes that yes, he may be indifferent, and that may have been an approach he took to life, but he kind of, looking back, he realized that he was still happy in that mindset and in that way of life. This writing, and Camus especially, I find his writing captures that um, that setting very well in Algeria. Just very picturesque writing, I would say. Very, very clean writing, very easy to read. Again, it's the book I've read the most out of these five, and the one I could continue reading over and over again. Just kind of this again, another kind of man's a lost character searching for meaning. Just overall fantastic book, and again, I've read it on my channel if you'd like to hear that read. Moving on to number three, I will go with Kafka's. This doesn't show it here, but Kafka's The Castle. To be honest, I don't really know. This is the one on the list that I haven't read in the longest time. I read this when I was ahead of time when I was very interested in absurdism, and Kafka possibly still is, but I know for a while was for sure my favorite writer. Um, and his writing I find just to be inherently funny. I think there was a quote of someone's, one of Kafka's neighbors could hear him like constantly laughing or just bursting out loud laughing while he was writing his books and not understanding why, and some people wouldn't find any humor in his writing, but they're just, if you look at some of his books like The Metamorphosis, The Trial, The Castle. They're just a lot of his writing is just wrapped around such absurdism and the absurdism of the human condition. Again, I think a thread that kind of goes throughout all of these books that I'm going to have on this list. But yeah, I find his writing is just it may not be explicitly funny, but just inherently the situation, the condition these characters find themselves in is just hilarious, along with just the great writing of Kafka himself. Just another fantastic, clean writer, simple writer. Again, just very, very relatable. You can relate to his characters very, very easily, just in the absurdism they face. So this one, reading the synopsis, protagonist, known only as K, arrives in a village and struggles to gain access to the mysterious authorities who govern it from a castle supposedly owned by Graf West. Um, the castle is often understood to be about alienation, unresponsive bureaucracy, the frustration of trying to conduct business with non-transparent, seemingly arbitrary controlling systems, and the futile pursuit of an unobtainable goal. So again, that this is, I believe, I don't know, again, I forget, I feel bad for forgetting this, but this just seems very similar to the trial. I think the castle, if I remember, he's literally just trying to gain access to this castle, if it's almost as simple as that. And the trial being, him, again, I don't have the synopsis for that one pulled up, but him just on trial and just kind of, again, working against bureaucracy, this kind of confused, alienated, frustrated, lonely character K, just trying to wrangle his way through these bureaucracies. And yeah, just I remember again, even though I can't remember the details, I remember that this book, the feeling that Kafka's writing gives me, is something I'll always look for in writing, and I'll never forget for sure. And again, I was a lot of my interest in reading was uh, centered around absurdism. So Kafka, again, just being really on the forefront of that. So yeah, number three, The Castle. Number four, again, no particular order really, but I'll go with Infinite Jest, just a book that I think any listeners on my channel would be familiar with. I've talked about this previously before about why I read David Foster Wallace, but I find his writing really just so colorful, so deep, and not layered in meaning, but layered in ex explanation, layered in description. I would say very deep in description. Um, and I think his writing really, as I've said before, I think it really provides a world for outcasts. It can kind of, it almost just reading Infinite Jest, you almost feel like the universe centers around this world he's created, and he can definitely, in Infinite Jest and all of his writing can make the mundane or just the most, what most people might consider the most like just bland parts of life. He can make them very intriguing and very interesting. Whether it's the characters in the halfway house or the characters at this tennis academy. Again, nothing really fantastic about any of the things that are happening in the story, but overall, just so descriptive and so relatable. I think again, very funny as well. Just the way he paints reality is so clear, and you can really see Foster Wallace's vision of the world through this book, I believe, most clearly. Um, and it's a book, though, extremely long. After reading it once, I feel like, as I've done on my YouTube channel, I feel like you can almost read it in parts and just in portions, just kind of go back, read whatever sections you want to at a time. Because again, the book does interconnect and intertwine the narrative, but it is kind of disconnected. So I don't think it would even really matter if you picked it up and just read a random chapter. I think it would be a completely enjoyable experience just as is. But I will give a synopsis from Wikipedia. The several major interwoven narratives include fringe group of Quebecois radicals, les assassins des fauteuils roulants, the wheelchair assassins, AFR, plan a violent coup to free Quebec from ONAN. Addicts living in Boston reach rock bottom with substance abuse before entering a residential drug and alcohol recovery program, Edit House Drug and Alcohol Recovery House, where they progress in recovery through Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Students train and study at the Enfield Tennis Academy, ETA, founded by James Incandenza and now run by Avril Incandenza and Avril's adopted brother, Charles Tavis. And fourth, interwoven narrative, the personal drama of the Incandenza family centers around Hal's struggles to live up to high expectations of academic and athletic success amid wider dysfunction. So, yeah, I'd say Hal's story, as well as all the other stories, again, kind of have this existential, search for meaning, this kind of lostness quality to them. Um, these narratives are connected via a film, Infinite Jest, also called The Entertainment or The Samizdat. The film is so compelling that its viewers lose all interest in anything other than repeatedly viewing it and thus eventually die. It was Jane Zankenda's final work. He completed it during a period of sobriety that was insisted upon by his lead actress, Joelle Van Dyne. The Quebecois separatists seek a replicable master copy of the work to aid in acts of terrorism against the United States. The United States Office of Unspecified Services, OUS, aims to intercept the master copy to prevent mass dissemination and the destabilization of the Organization of North American Nations, or else to find or produce an anti-entertainment that can counter the film's effects. Joelle seeks treatment for substance abuse problems at Edit House. AFR member and possible OUS double agent Remy Marath visits Edit House, aiming to find Joelle and a lead to the master copy of The Entertainment. Again, that synopsis is probably the most I've understood Infinite Jest since I've never even read a synopsis of it before. I've never really fully understood. I guess, overall, I guess, yeah, it's centering the plot around the entertainment is the most clear-cut way to understand the narrative going on. But again, I just feel like it's Foster Wallace's kind of just overall vision, which again, it's just a reality that I can personally relate to. I feel like maybe not everyone can relate to, but I feel like is a very clear cut picture of the way I see reality and, I don't know, life and stuff like that. So yeah, number 4, Infinite Jest. Last but not least, number 5, I will go with East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I've read some of Steinbeck's other work, Grapes of Wrath, and what's the other one? Why can't I remember this? I should remember this because I also read it on my channel. Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men. But East of Eden by far my favorite book of Steinbeck's. I'll give a quick synopsis here. Set in the rich farmland of California's Salinas Valley, this sprawling and often brutal novel follows the intertwined destinies of two families, the Trasks and the Hamiltons, whose generations helplessly reenact the fall of Adam and Eve and the poisonous rivalry of Cain and Abel. Adam Trask came to California from the east to farm and raise his family on the new rich land, but the birth of his twins, Cal and Aaron, mirroring Cain and Abel, bring his wife to the brink of madness, and Adam is left alone to raise his boys to manhood. One boy thrives, nurtured by the love of all those around him, that being Aaron, I believe, and the other, Cal, grows up in loneliness, enveloped by a mysterious darkness. This book's a bit long, but I feel like the pacing is perfect. It really draws you in. His Steinbeck's descript writing is so beautifully descriptive of California, of the setting. It's very. I'm probably just saying this because I've seen these words used about this book, but it's very kind of biblical and almost mythical. Um, I don't know. The writing seems to kind of walk this line between you know, what could be seen as kind of a fictional reality and what could just be seen again as myth. But the thing about this book that I love the most, which you do see, and I feel like I don't know, again, I know this list is in no particular order, but with Wallace's work as well, is there's so many things he can bring out about life or about reality, whatever psychology, the human and just human perspective that sometimes a writer, you'll see something in philosophy or writing and where you'll go, something will just kind of, a light bulb will go off and you'll go, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel, or that's exactly how I see life in this moment, or I've felt exactly like this before. It happens in Infinite Jest, but I find in East of Eden that book is just full of that sort of feeling where you're reading about all of these characters and really every single character. If I remember, again, I don't remember the plot exactly, but I remember almost every character you could feel something, you could connect to some sort of aspect of their character, some sort of um, yeah, so something, uh, some problem they were facing or whatever, whatever feeling they were facing. You really can just you really connect with it, really with every single character, with kind of Cal's kind of anger and spite towards Aaron and Aaron's kind of you know um, existential lost feelings as well. And I don't know if it's their mother or something, but there's a part in the book where um, there's a brothel and there's a character in the brothel, and again, just the story of that person's journey in the brothel and to the brothel. Again, I'm very vaguely remembering this was just so you really can connect with that strife and that hardship of that character almost and almost just like justifying their actions in a way that you just feel so like you feel that you see their persona so clearly and you understand their kind of psychological makeup so clearly that you almost just justify every single character's actions in this book, whether they're right or wrong. And yeah, again, just the very beautiful book. It's long, but it's not too long. I feel like the length really allows that to become possible. It kind of invests you in these characters. It builds their story um, over a good amount of time, and to the point where again you just feel like you see directly into those characters. And I feel like that is the best thing about good writing is you can see right into the writer's psyche almost, and you can see into Steinbeck. You can almost see into his mind the way he brings these characters to life. Again, almost every book on this list would do that as well, but the kind of extent to which Steinbeck does that and the amount of times I remember in this book that kind of that light bulb just went off. You went, oh my gosh, like I've felt that feeling, or you're almost like you're not in awe of the fact that he was able to bring some of those feelings to life. You're just in awe of him, even just his awareness of feelings that you might almost be so fleeting in life, or you might really not think twice about, but he brings them out. He puts them on the page and brings them into this novel, and you almost just think like, oh my gosh, like why did I never stop to think about that in that way before? And then of course just the ability to do that is very admirable as well. So yeah, that's my top five, no particular order. That list would always be changing and will change in the future. Again, Kafka at one point was my favorite writer for a big chunk of time. Catcher in the Rye, I would have said was my favorite book for uh, a number of years as well. So yeah, please let me know what you think if you've read any of these books, if you enjoy them as well, and what your top five novels are. Be interested in hearing that as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye.